Welcome to another podcast of You Woke Up. And I'm here with Carl, the Sunlight Salesman, which we'll find out what that means in a minute. And I'm going to ask you, like I ask everyone, please let me know what it was that woke you up. What made it that you were like, I can't do this anymore. I see the Matrix or whatever. And you had to just like change your life.
Mm. I would say that there's a couple of there's some moving parts to this question, and there were kind of, different awakenings along the way. And I'll
Okay.
really just boil it down to two of them because I remember as a child, I was growing up in a very Catholic, Christian, very strict religious family. And so
Mhm.
my first awakening was when I realized that there were other religions. And
Oh,
no one could
wow.
answer the questions that I had about the other religions. Like I would ask my parents or my grandparents, so what happens to them when they die? Do they just go right to hell? And that was their answer for me, is that, we are the chosen people and so I couldn't ever accept that, as a 6, 7-year-old kid. So I used to lay in bed at night and contemplate the deeper questions to the nature of
Oh.
our reality. But as most kids experience nowadays, the systems that we have set up are specifically designed to kind of weed out those deeper questions and distract you
Oh,
from the
yes.
deeper purpose of life. So I totally got caught in the weeds of junior high school, you're only thinking about where am I going to go to college? What are my test scores looking like? All this and all that. So this kind of leads me into my next awakening, which was after high school. When I dropped out of college, I broke up with my girlfriend and I really had to hit rock bottom. And it was kind of God's way of, get rid of all the distractions. College, yeah, we're not thinking about that.
College isn't real.
And so I would say the biggest spark during that phase in my life was changing my diet. I was one of those kids, I only ate buttered noodles and Snickers and Dorito. There wasn't one whole food in my diet as a kid.
Oh, wow.
That's how bad it was. So when I started implementing healthier whole foods into my diet, I started seeing how much this stuff really affects the way you think, how you feel, all this, the way that you perceive reality. That's why they have the gut brain connection, is
Yes.
because it controls so much of our thoughts and our emotions. I never realized this, I had no idea. So once I started eating healthier foods, I became hooked and,
Your brain started working.
absolutely.
Well, yeah, and it's funny because when we're kids, we follow what our parents do. We
Mhm.
really do. We like, and so it's like if our parents, don't feed us, like vegetables and stuff like that, we're like, this is normal.
Yeah,
So as we grow up, and that's a lot of things too. Food is really a big deal. I happen to believe that you can alchemize food. One of the things
mhm,
me and my husband do is we bless all the food that we eat. So sometimes we can't
absolutely,
buy
I think this is
organic.
so important.
Yeah, so but he literally has this thing written out and it was like, thank you for nourishing us. May all the pesticides and harmful things get, as so we do this thing. So it's
Yeah,
not like we're out there like not eating certain stuff. Like we get to go to a restaurant sometimes because you want to live life. You're in the
yeah,
human experience.
yeah,
But, making the choices or blessing the food or putting the white light in what you're eating too, it makes a
absolutely.
big
I
difference.
couldn't agree with that more, and, we even have the science to back this up nowadays with all these studies that have been done with putting your intention into your water, how it affects the crystals of the water, and all these different things that really now we're being able to, see how just through pure intention you could change the structure of your food, of your water, and how it's gonna affect you, you know?
And
So
your
this is
life.
something that's really been weeded out of the Western world that they still in every other part of the world, you know, it's still important to get around the table to pray to your food. You know, it's
Or
a
bless it or
ceremony.
whatever you.
Every meal is a
Yeah.
ceremony, as opposed to here now, we go through the drive-through, we're eating behind the wheel, and we're just not having any respect or reverence for our food. So
I
just
haven't
by
eaten fast
adding
food in
that
like
little
10
the
years.
most important ingredient, the love, it makes such a huge difference, you know? Like, if you're eating talk about alchemy, if you're eating a burger that was flipped by someone who's in McDonald's and they're having a bad day, that
Oh,
energy is
yes.
being imprinted onto your food, you know, they're not getting cleaned the best. But if you had grandma put her love and energy into that very same burger, she spent all day at home preparing it for the family, that energy is absolutely gonna come through in the food and affect you.
Yeah.
100%, and so the more you pay attention to these things, how they affect your body and everything, the better your intuition gets, and, you know, they say
Yeah.
that, the food, because it controls so much of what we think, it's essentially being used against us, you know, like all these additives, they will create emotional imbalances like anger, ADHD, stuff like that. And it's really just lowering the vibration of your body and making it a better house for things like parasites and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So,
And it's a real big thing. Like I said, I haven't eaten fast food in over 10 years and I just found and it wasn't really like, I heard the thing about the people like, doing your food.
mhm,
And that's why you think like let's say you go to a small bakery or you walk into one of things and you can see that person is baking like my husband does this. He wants to do a bakery one day, but like you can see the vibe of these people putting into the food. You can
yeah,
tell the difference. That's why sometimes going to
absolutely.
the mom and pops sometimes are just, they love doing what they're doing. They keep it that way. But when you're going to fast food is fast. So, and then they have these people that are working for this and they don't really like it. So that, they're like, I have to be here. There's always exceptions to the rules. I have seen
Yeah,
sometimes some people had some places and they are living their best lives. And that's because they're choosing, I think, to do that. But yeah,
100%.
like you said, if you're eating in the car, you're doing this stuff. Like for me, one of the things too is I'll go like I like to go to Whole Foods and they got that salad bar and I will bless that and I'll eat that and I'll kind of sit it there. Or if I have to eat in my car, I'll usually buy something that I can like make or whatever. There are ways to do it, but in this world, and
Certainly.
that is why we got to break out of the matrix, the 3D, because it makes it seem like it's okay to do this, that we
Yeah,
don't have enough time.
yeah,
And if we
yeah.
don't have enough time, we have to go get the fast food. We have to go do this thing. We
And
have to go.
that's the big thing with it all, right? Is the convenience factor. The
Yeah.
fast food, it's so much faster. Or the processed foods, we don't have to spend time preparing it ourselves. Even, you know, like the microwave, it's so much faster, but it is essentially, you know, radiating your food and
Yeah.
nuking some of the nutrients. So anything that you can do to basically make the process longer and infuse it with your own love is it's making it healthier for you.
Yeah. And
And
this
that's
is
why,
this is
you
with
know, if you
life.
farmed it yourself, if you went out and foraged it yourself, if you hunted or fished it yourself, that just makes it this much better for you because now our microbiome is more closely correlated to the microbiome of the soil of our environment.
Yeah.
So it actually makes it like a bridge of communication between you and your environment. So who knows if
Yeah.
we started eating from the mulberry tree in our backyard every single day, we would inevitably be able to communicate with this tree better. And some people
Yeah.
don't know how far that goes, but you can
Yeah. And it
build a
can go
good
anywhere. And this is not just with your food.
yeah.
This is and I think one thing the world has very much got caught up on is instant gratification.
That's
And
exactly
so
it.
Yeah, and so and it leaks into our food, into our religion, into the way that we um just operate. And one of the biggest things I've done on my journey the last couple years is I have sacrificed instant okay, gratification to have it be where I take a little bit longer or something, or I choose something of a little bit more, something like that. And it has made my life a lot better. And at first it was like, I don't have time to do this. And I would get very, very upset. And then as I kept doing it, it became a habit. And soon I didn't even realize. Like for me, with the fast food, like I would, I don't even like notice anymore that I don't eat fast food. And it's like, I guess sometimes I don't do things that would require me to eat fast food.
Mm,
And when you don't
it all
do like
comes
the stuff
full
that
circle.
you're rushing,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So it's all like a loop that we get stuck in, and now we're always rushing. Now we don't have much ownership of our own attention anymore, which is really the
yeah,
most important thing that we have, right? There's a quote that I like to repeat. Gosh, I forgot his name, but he said, "All of modern man's problems come from his inability to sit quietly in a room alone." So going
yes.
back to the
Being
distraction,
alone with ourselves is
yeah,
like
it's so important.
scary,
Yeah.
but
I'll
so
never forget the
important.
first time I sat down to meditate. I set a timer. I think it was 5 minutes, right? And I was like, I had no idea what I'm doing. I'm just gonna sit down and close my eyes and sit in the
Let's
silence
just
for
see.
5 minutes. Yeah, just wherever it takes me, because I could notice these things in myself, how my attention span, it was I could tell, it's easy
Yeah.
to tell. So I was like, that was the biggest part of starting meditation for me. It didn't start as something spiritual, it was more about taking my own attention back, but I remember
The
sitting
monkey
there, I
mind.
thought it had been 15 minutes. I was like, "I forgot to start the alarm for sure, like, for sure, it's been 15 minutes at least," you know? The monkey brain loud as ever, and then I went to look at my it had been 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I was convinced
Yeah.
that it had been 15, and it had only
Yeah.
been
That's why
2.
time's not even real.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and you see that where these people like this guy's all I think I read something about a guy who had been like in a dark room or whatever. He thought he was there for 3 days. It had been 50 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like the concept of this is really important. It really is. It's like, you know, this is really important too, especially with the awakenings that everyone's having. This stuff is everyone's starting to realize that everything that they have learned is not the way.
Mhm.
All the hustle, the bustle, the burnout, the things. And it sounds like for you, like in high school and what did you go to college for?
Just general educations, that's
So
all.
you were like, I need to go, and you were like, no.
Yeah, yeah.
So it sounds like for
I wouldn't
you,
say
it
I
was
made the
like,
the no choice, it was more of divine intervention,
yeah.
It was always part of my path to
Well,
drop.
yeah, but it was like it's like you go there and you know what? Sometimes college is good. Like sometimes it gives people a lot of skills, but not
Certainly,
it's
and
not for
that
everyone.
yeah, yeah. It was just part of my path to have to drop out and feel like, "Oh," like, "What am I doing
That
with
was your
my life?" And
awakening.
I was ashamed that I wasn't like everybody else,
Oh yeah.
which is, that's you you have to embrace your differences and your uniqueness and use that to fuel you, to drive you to where you
Yeah.
wanna get today,
And
to
for me for college too. It was 2001 and I was like, "All right, I'm going to go to college." So I started to go to college and it was the worst. And I was like, "I'm not supposed to be here, but this is the way." And so and then I think I dropped out.
Mhm.
And I kept going back and I would drop out. And then So it literally, I graduated from college in 2016, 15 years later.
Wow.
But I went back to college in 2011, 12 for photography.
Mm,
So I went for photography. So I went and did the whole program of photography and graduated.
yeah,
And I used that photography for years. I'm no longer a photographer now, but it was like I found that. But that took me 15 years. And
yeah,
I like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't do the normal way. I didn't do that stuff. I was never supposed to. But
yeah.
I felt like I had to, that guilt of like, I'm never going to get a job. I'm never going to do this stuff. And for me, like, I'm much older than you, but like, I'm so grateful that like this is changing. Less
Absolutely.
people are thinking they have to go to college. Less people are following these ways or doing it and then waking up sooner and not continuing in it.
Yeah,
And that's what I see the shift has been. Because you're
yeah.
27, I'm going to be 43, but like it was much slower for me, the people that I know. But you
It
know,
it
you could
really
have,
feels like time is speeding up now.
it is, oh, it
So
100%
all
is.
of the social constructs that our collective consciousness has been operating under, they're all being, pulled from under the rug.
Yeah.
All the social constructs are just kind of starting to fall apart one by one by
And they need
one. People
to.
are
They
asked,
need to. It's no
you
longer,
know, "Who am
they
I?
had their place.
Who am I?"
Yeah.
That's like one of the first big questions that comes when you realize that so much of our society, it's just been built on foundations that don't have good integrity, I guess you
Yeah.
could say.
So
Very,
therefore
very deceptive.
we don't have it. We
Yeah.
don't know what it means. We have to figure it out under like things that have been hidden or ways that you read something and it, even if it's older or a concept, whether it's galactic, whether it's, shamanic or any of these things, and like, and everybody has different paths, but like
Mhm.
when it starts to feel real in your body, and then we have to go like deep dive to find these things because they've been hidden. And I get it. I understand that they, whoever wanted the separation, they wanted the separation and the need for people to believe outside of themselves for whatever was happening to work.
Mhm.
And so I feel like a lot of things happened in this way. Now, there's always good and bad, two sides of the coin. We have to have the feminine, masculine, we have to have all that. So a lot of good things have come. We were able to, get farther in life and do things. I think one of the coolest things I think of now, if people would use this, is the fact that we know so much history.
Mm.
So the fact that even more than 100 years ago, we know so much now that like, if we keep repeating, that's on us.
Yeah.
Because like we literally know what happened. It's written down.
Yeah.
It's on the
Yeah.
web. You
Yeah.
can't ignore, like back in the day, it's like, it happened in Egypt and then it happened here and somewhere else. And no one knew.
Yeah.
It was,
There's
so
no
they kept making
gatekeeping.
mistakes. Yeah.
There's truly no gatekeeping. And I just want to say I
No.
think it's awesome the perspective that you see this from is, the forces that have been seeking to make us more separate from source, that you have compassion for them
Oh,
because this
yeah. I
is
get it.
that it's so important as we get older to not condemn and to see that this is really we chose this deep down to
Uh-huh.
have this experience of being so separate from source so that we can have the experience of waking back up and coming back to oneness with source again. And so it's kind of
Yes.
like the heartbeat of God, where if we are God, we're an omniscient, all-knowing creator that there's no new experiences for you. You
Yeah.
want to separate out and forget for a second that you're God, so that you
Yeah.
can have new experiences and all these things, which requires duality, good
Yeah.
and bad.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
not
Good
the
and
way that
bad.
it's seen from a much higher perspective, is it's just
Yeah.
to opposing forces that are always in balance, which is like, karma, cause and effect,
Cause and effect.
whatever they
It's
want
just
to
like
say.
without the light, there would be no darkness.
Exactly. So
Without
what
the
a joy it
darkness, there
is
would
just
be
to
no
be
light.
human and experience the full spectrum of emotions, you know?
Yeah, like for real. Like I really feel like a lot of this is just, and that I think is the biggest thing for people just waking up, is that they are realizing and they know deep down that they are one with everything, but that feels wrong.
Mhm. Because part of our
So
programming, has always just been to, divide and conquer, whatever it is just to always be back and forth about something with our neighbors, with our teachers, with our parents, with whoever it may
they're
be.
lovers with our,
That as
the
well, yeah,
person at
that's
the
the most
grocery
important
store.
one, right? Yeah,
And it's like, but that keeps you caught in the loop of distraction.
yeah,
And we're
destruction and
distracted.
distraction, yeah.
I want to know why you call yourself the Sunlight Salesman. What is that for you?
Yeah, I'm so happy you asked. I'm the Sunlight Salesman because I think that the best way to wake people up, as you're trying to do with this podcast as well on a similar mission, is, to get them to reconnect with their own soul. And we do this by connecting with nature, with the sun, meditation, breath work, fasting, sauna, cold plunge, anything that's free is my message. I think that all the best things in the world are free. And this kind of the sunlight salesman concept came for me from being a conspiracy theorist because I used to be like, I want to fight back. I want to fight back. I want to fight back. The people that are spraying our cornfields and doing this and doing that and putting
Yeah.
poison in our foods, and it used to make me really angry, and
Yeah.
I always wanted a way to fight back against that, and this is it. This is
Yeah.
just getting people to spend more time in nature, to meditate, to connect with themselves, to get more sunlight on their skin. Just by realizing that all the best things for us are free because there's so much of us being told, you have this disease and if you want to fix it, you're going to need this pill
Oh,
but
yeah.
we
It's
are
all of inside of us. You literally can do your reality. And if
absolutely,
you,
we're the
you
creator of
know,
our own reality.
yeah. So by doing the sunlight, so because sunlight is free, and you're
Absolutely.
like, I'm selling it to you for free.
Yeah, I'm trying to get
And
you to
everyone's
do
like, I
more
get
of
it for
what's
free.
free.
I want it for free. I want sun.
Yeah,
Okay, well, here's the sun. Let's go outside together. And
yeah.
then they're outside for free.
And the sunlight, I really think, is the most powerful ascension tool that we have,
Oh, it is.
all these different ancient cultures and religions, no matter what part of the world we visit, they mapped out 7 subtle energy centers within our physical body, the exact
Mhm.
same. So if you go to Tibet, if you go to the Mayans, they all mapped out 7 different chakras, which happen to correlate with the colors of the rainbow. This is how light fractalizes itself. So is this a coincidence that all these different cultures and occults and mystery schools came to that same conclusion that we have 7 energy centers that are the same colors as the rainbow? It's just a coincidence? No, because we are beings of light,
Yeah. We
Without
are light,
the
straight light.
sun, exactly. There is nothing on this planet that didn't originate from the sun.
Yeah.
Water
And
power, wind power, all the energy on our planet comes from the sun. Every speck of
yeah.
energy.
But that's why the sun rotates too, because the darkness allows, just like a seed underneath, in the darkness grows, it allows things to grow. That's why I'm a firm believer that because if you were to stand in the sun 24/7, you would become dead. Just it would be you would be a cooked goose. And so there's the balance. And that's
Absolutely.
another message right there too, of like the rest. The time, oh, the sun does go down. All right, okay, the sun's down, go to bed.
Absolutely.
Sleep. So your body
I
reject, and then
agree
you
with
get
that
back up in
more.
the
And
morning.
the more we align ourselves with our natural food diets, our natural circadian rhythm, our natural state of being, that makes it easier for us to connect with our higher selves, to listen to those calls that come from our soul, that
Yeah,
tell us, hey, maybe we shouldn't be in school right now.
yeah,
It makes the
yeah.
discernment between your soul and society so much easier.
So there's this cool thing here. There's this girl I met, and they have a school here in Colorado where I live
Mhm.
that's outdoor school all year.
No way.
Yep. And it's for the younger kids, obviously,
Yeah.
because adults are like, I'll be outside. But
We need
yeah,
that the
so,
most.
right?
They
Yeah,
they have
right?
that,
They have this
adventure
thing. Well,
inner
even when it's
child.
snowing, I mean, they have I don't really know too much about it, but I'm pretty sure they have where they would sit under. So if it's snowing, they're not just like
Yeah,
sitting
yeah.
in the snow or whatever, but it's a completely outside school.
Mhm.
And I was like, that's a step. And the thing is that also you, and I know that you know this, and I'm sure you don't tell people to just rip themselves and just start. It's called, you have to slowly
Absolutely.
integrate
That's,
these things.
one of the first, questions that people get is, "What about sunburn?" And stuff like that. And that's obviously a huge factor, and there are some key steps that we can take to mitigate that. For instance, just not wearing sunglasses
Yeah.
because it messes up the signaling between your eyes and your body of how many
Thinks you're asleep.
melanocytes to produce to protect you from the sun. So it throws off this miscommunication and makes you way more susceptible to burning. Same thing with
Yeah.
just grounding, getting your feet on the earth, because that's one of the best things for inflammation. So
Yeah.
if you just have your bare feet on the earth while you're getting some sun, it protects you so much.
And you don't have to stand in it for like 8 hours. Like it this is the body knows how to and I do believe our bodies have adapted. I do believe that we have more adaptions now than if we were to throw one of our ancestors inside
Yeah.
for a whole 8 hours.
Yeah.
So you have to take that into to account too, that we have this balance.
Mhm.
So the thing is that I know some people are like, oh, but I can't even be inside. I can't even live my life. I have to be outside all day. You don't have to be outside all day. You don't have to cold plunge for 6 hours. You'll die. You
Yeah.
don't have to, this is the thing. It's just called about the balance.
Yeah.
Like I'll go outside every morning, put my feet on the ground, get in the sun for 15 minutes, and I'm back inside doing life. And I'll go back outside and do my walk. And I know that this is what the body needs because we are living in a different time. If we were to revert all the way back, I feel like that takes away some of the things that we have done to evolve. But
Absolutely.
like I said, with the balance, it's the balance. And you feel like, oh, I need to go ground. I'm going to go ground.
Yeah.
Like, don't ignore that. But there's sometimes when your body's not telling you to ground, it's telling you you're doing something like you're grocery shopping or you're doing your laundry or you're making a podcast,
Yeah.
sitting in here, whatever.
Yeah.
All about the balance. But you have to have the balance. And
Absolutely.
it's just like if you meditate unless you're a monk, meditating for 19 hours a day, it's not your bag.
Yeah.
Like it's not part of your lifestyle. So you don't have to rip everything apart, but making the mindful choices, going outside, don't wear sunglasses because then it thinks it's nighttime when it's daytime. And then it's like, oh God,
Well,
you know?
certainly make it a point to get some sunlight directly in your eyes, especially
Yeah.
if you could do this in the morning or at night. This has been like an Egyptian practice. It
And
dates
it's
back
30 minutes,
thousands of
right? I
years.
heard it was like 30 minutes before, like you can look and like 30
In
minutes
the
like
first
before the
30 minutes
sunrise you
of the
can look.
sun rising or
Yeah,
the sun setting is when it's
that's what it was.
not gonna be particularly harmful to
Yeah. And
gaze
but you can
from
still look at
the
it.
sun.
Yeah.
And they say that this unblocks the third eye or
Like
detoxes the
pineal, I
pineal
can't say that
gland.
word.
Yeah,
The pineal
yeah,
gland? I did not say
which has
that.
been symbolic in, many different cultures.
Yeah. It's all about waking up. And because if you wake up and you do these things, life will actually get easier. it
Absolutely.
will actually be. Do you find that things are more smoother for you now? I mean still human experience, but like do
Yeah.
you find that things that you thought might be intensely hard are like not hard now? Like to just do?
I would say that I'm incredible at staying in my center now. So
But that took practice.
absolutely, absolutely. Before the small I used to have a bad habit of, I stubbed my toe and I would just swear, "You mother effer,"
Yeah.
who am I swearing at myself?
Yeah.
You know? So
The furniture?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
seriously, or just sitting in traffic used to always make me upset, but now and those are just minute, little challenges throughout life. But even with the big ones, I find that yeah, it's it makes it easier to stay in my center because we are talking about the balance, right? And so this is a reason why I started my mission of the Sunlight Salesman is because we have a clear out of balance with nature, right? We're
Hmm.
not getting enough of it at all. We're not connected with it nearly as much as we should be. So sometimes I guess my vibe comes off like a caveman. Like I think you should be outside all day with your feet in the grass. No, I'm a human too, but I just recognize that there's a void for within our society for connecting with nature, with
Yeah.
ourselves again. And so I think it's one of the most valuable messages that can be pushed at this time. And
Yeah, and it
what
really
triggers our
it
body's
helps.
innate ability to heal itself, especially with things like fasting. All of the energy in our body gets sent to where we need the healing the most.
Yeah. And you don't have to do it all the time.
Yeah.
Like this is not something that you have to do all the time, and you can do it around like you have a day to do this stuff and whatever. But it's and all of this stuff like you said, like being in traffic or stubbing your toe, like we're everyone's going to stub their toe.
Mhm.
Like it's just but this is what I mean by the human experience. So we chose to have the human experience. We chose to be here. We chose to do this, right?
Mhm.
So we're like, okay. And the human experience is sticky. It is full of a lot of stuff. And
Yeah.
I mean, and you know what? We like to think that right now, like our traffic and our smog and all this stuff is whatever. But I'm sorry, but our ancestors dealt with stressors too. And we're like, oh, it's so much easier. I'm like, at least we're not getting eaten by a tiger every
Exactly,
Thursday.
right? That's the
Yeah. But we all have that. So the whole thing, and I think at the bare bones of what you're trying to do, and like I said, if it resonates with you, we were talking about this before we started this about like if it resonates, like let's say Carl's saying, go put your feet on the ground all the time, and this resonates, and well, it should resonate to be put that, but you don't have to do the an extreme as he does.
Yeah.
He's just an example.
Yeah.
But when you do these things, when you like have it where you are doing these things when you go into traffic nowadays, which is one of our stressors, you're not screaming. And the only person who can hear you in your own car is yourself and whoever else is
Exactly.
in there. So, like, these are these things. And what does it do? It makes the human experience easier,
Absolutely.
flowier.
I couldn't agree more.
And,
I'll just give you a good, example to back on that. When I start my mornings, the first thing that I do is I get up and I go and I get my bare feet on the grass and I look at the sun and I have some beautiful woods in my backyard. Nothing else, there's no problems, there's no issue as opposed to, the average person nowadays. I'm waking up with the magnificence of just how great life is, and saying things out loud that you're grateful for are very important as well. But on the flip side, we have people who start their day, the first thing that they do is check their phone or turn on the news, which is like
oof,
putting on a pair of glasses that you look at the world through fear and scarcity.
yeah.
As opposed to if the first thing you do in the mornings is just step outside and
Or
appreciate
even
the
open your
brilliance of
window.
nature. Yeah, something that simple. something
Even
that's
open the blinds
yeah,
and
and
letting
just
the
saying
light
thank you the
in.
second that you wake up, you know? Saying
Yeah.
what you're
And saying
grateful
thank you.
for
I do
right
that when
away,
I
that
wake
should
up,
be the first thing, because
even
then
if you
that
can't get
really
outside,
yeah, then that
saying
really
you're
sets our
grateful.
perspective for the rest of the day. We find the things that we have to be grateful for instead of the things that we have to be scared of or mad about or fearful or whatever it may be, you know?
Yeah, setting the tone for the day
Yeah.
is. And do you find that that's like now you do that? Like, but you used to not do that, right? You
Yeah.
used to wake
Yeah.
up and
This
be like,
for
I gotta
me,
go do this, and
it's a complete non-negotiable for me.
yeah, for you now. And
Yeah.
it's and like, is there something that you have that like you did when you were younger or whatever that you think is like now it's like an ability? Like they're saying a lot of like clairs are coming on for people, a lot, a
Yeah.
lot of different stuff. Like, is there something that you have that you kind of like were like, and then you, as you got into this and started deep diving into the stuff, has become like something you're like, oh yeah, that's something I can do.
Yeah. One thing that I'll say in particular is light language. I didn't
Okay.
realize, like, because as a kid, it's kind of our innate, it's in our nature to just make weird noises and stuff like that.
Oh, I remember clearly now that I used to do that. I had a whole thing
Yeah,
I was talking. Yeah.
yeah. So I didn't realize, but it never completely fell away. Like when I talk with my pets, that would
Hmm.
come back, and I didn't realize that that was, what this is.
Yeah.
I'm calling my pets these weird different names, saying things that and so the more I started to embrace my inner child, yeah, that really just opened up for me, and I started really using it as a technology almost and understanding more and more of what light language is, you know?
Yeah, and there's so many different types. Like for me, my light language comes out through singing
Mm.
and through dance. Like you've seen my dance, like there's code streaming out of me.
Yeah,
And I
and it's
never
something you can
knew.
just feel, it's like, letting your soul express itself through you. It's like
Yeah, I do
completely
some of the
being
talking
an
too.
embodiment of your higher self in that moment, is the way that I would
Yeah,
describe it.
and I feel like light language, some people, when they're like, oh, they're speaking in tongues or they're doing weird stuff. But I feel like that's part of the dampening of saying it has to be one way.
Yeah.
Like, it's a perfect example. You and me are talking English right now, right?
Mhm.
But someone in Japan is talking Japanese. And I have no idea what they're saying. Like, it literally sounds like gibberish to me because
Yeah.
I don't understand. It doesn't mean that what's coming out of their mouth doesn't make perfect sense in language.
Yeah.
And that is the same thing with light language.
Yeah. And
The
what I
same
love
thing.
about light language is that it bypasses the conscious mind, you
Yes.
know? So, especially if
Yes.
you're gonna be receiving from someone else, like a transmission,
Hmm.
it's a foolproof form of technology for, especially when you set the intention, what kind of codes do I wanna bring through for this person or whatever. It's such a
Yeah.
potent form of technology that requires no effort, really,
Yeah.
on the receiving or the commanding end because, if you try to put the effort into using your hands or whatever it is, then it's just gonna be you're getting in your own way, you have to empty yourself and just be a little bit
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, and it's hard when you're waking up, when you're figuring out these things, you know, like codes start coming in and stuff like that. It's hard to accept that you're not crazy and you're not
Yeah.
doing this stuff, but it's the same thing as like when you hear a foreign language for the first time, your brain starts scrambling.
Yeah.
You're like, I understand that they're talking to me because you see them doing like expressions and, or even like, let's say they're pointing at like a can and you're like, they're saying a word and your body and like subconscious knows that they're saying can.
Absolutely.
but you don't know why you know that.
Yeah.
But it's just the barrier of the humanness. And that's why we have to learn other languages that we're not taught. And that is why we don't come rolling out into the world speaking any language, but just screaming or crying or laughing.
Yeah.
We're learning that. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? I feel like the
Absolutely.
light
And that's
language is a little different. We
the
start talking that.
yeah. That and energy is really the language of the universe, right? Like the
Yeah.
more that we can tune into this, the more, we start to learn from animals and trees and just other people subconsciously. The more we open up ourselves to repair new neurons and make new neural connections all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's, I mean, I feel like all of this, the main, I think that you and me are kind of the same thing of the main thing of surrendering and letting in the, just the way of ease,
Mm,
the
yeah.
part that doesn't make you feel like you're fighting molasses.
Yeah.
And that is so different for everyone. But at the center of it, your body will tell you, the energy will tell you. And when you do things to clear your energy, whether that's standing with your feet on the ground, or if you're in your car, you're imagining that white light coming or the violet flame or whatever
Mm,
it is to you,
yeah.
keeping your stuff like that, it's going to help mentally because we are in density. The 3D is density.
Yeah.
But that can also be a gift, but also you can alchemize that with having it being when you have like the balance and knowing there's balance and knowing that whether the darknesses or the people putting pesticides on the things, like you could fight them day and night. But at the end of the day, what you do, how you show up, how I show up, as examples is what is going to cause the shift because
Absolutely.
someone somewhere needs to see that. And we can't control anyone else. We can't go out and control all those things from not putting pesticides on things. We can't, it's just how it is right now. And that's fair. And okay. But like, if we just show up for ourselves, if we just show up with who we are and what we're doing and how we're doing it,
I
like,
completely agree. They say that the best way to lead is by example. And I had to
yeah.
learn this the hard way. I have a brother that's 10 years younger than me. So I used
Oh,
to be super hard on him and telling him the things like, don't make the same mistakes I made, like, don't be playing video games all the time. Don't do this, don't do that. And that's
he
not
has to find his
constructive
own
in
way.
any way because one, it makes them, especially with like, a rebellious teenager, condemn you and want to do that behavior more. And two, it sparks feelings of shame or guilt, which are not beneficial in any way. So the only thing that you can do, especially for people that you really love, for your society, for your community, is be the best version of yourself that you can be. And how beautiful is that? By doing the work for yourself, you're doing it for everyone else, you know?
Yeah, it raises the vibe
Yeah, absolutely.
because instead of being like, you can't, and that raises, and then you're being like commanding and controlling, which is kind of low vibrational.
Yeah,
And then they're like, I can feel that. So I really don't want to even do, even if you're right, I don't want to do it.
yeah,
Instead of him watching you and being like, oh, well, that seems way
exactly.
better than what I'm doing. And we can't control him anyways. So, like, literally telling anyone anything, like, you
Yeah.
can't. You just can't do it. Like,
It
it is
just
a hard
makes
lesson to
you
swallow,
more
but
attached, and it's gonna bring you more suffering because you're
yeah.
attaching yourself to outcomes that aren't yours, and so that's only setting yourself up for failure. I'm a
Yeah.
complete proponent of how you were talking about, surrendering to the experience, because that's kind of what we're seeing not just as individuals, but as a collective
Collective.
consciousness is we've been stuck in a mostly masculine society for so long where we're all based on left brain analytics and logical thinking and all this and that. And so with, a lot of the awakenings that are taking place is it's just coming from surrender, from letting go of this need to define everything and to label everything and to be in control of every outcome. It's what we're witnessing, I really think, is the rise of the divine feminine, and it's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing to be a part of.
Yeah, and the divine feminine is in all of us. It's
Absolute.
in everything. And because with the divine feminine is the divine masculine, and it does the yin yang, and the masculine hasn't been very divine. And so the divine feminine has been, just like there's the part of the feminine that's not either,
Yeah. Of
and
course,
so
neither of them. If one of them was in balance, then both of them would be.
yeah, and that's why it's so important to bring back the divine feminine aspect, because when that happens it nurtures the divine masculine into, and it just becomes this awesome, like a super awesome thing
Yeah.
with the flow that allows the masculine divine masculine part of it to step into the power of it, of the flow, and the ground at the it's just like this whole thing.
Yeah.
It's and
There's no
that's
words to describe it. And
yeah.
so like we're talking about the balance right now, which in Taoism they use the yin and the yang. And they when he was describing the Tao, the perfect balance, he said, forced to give it a name, I call it the Tao. But there really is no words that you can describe for this
You
type
just
of
know that it feels correct. I don't wanna
alive.
say right because that's a heavy word, but it feels I'm gonna say it feels aligned.
Yeah,
It makes when it doesn't feel heavy, it
yeah,
feels light.
yeah,
Yeah, and
absolutely.
I'm here for it. That was part of when I had that vision of me and the golden goddess thing. I'm like, ah, I'm a part of that. Like I'm supposed to be example of this
Yeah,
in the love that I have in me, the devotion I have in me, and the devotion to humankind, my beloved, everything. Like
yeah.
it's like, okay, so I must, do that example and take it and shift it into the balance and not the unbalance. So
Yeah,
what is go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like in ancient tantric teachings and stuff like that, they were taught, first is about finding your center and your balance. And if you can do that really well, then the tantric practices with another person are gonna be a whole nother level because
Yeah, but
you found the
you first.
balance within yourself. And
Mhm.
that's what prepares you to take it to a step further with another person, with all of society, whatever it is.
Yeah, because I do believe that it's like you are the way for yourself. And
Really.
by that, that's the example. It comes right back to the example things. It's like if you are out of balance, out of whack, that's what, and because everything's a mirror too. So then everything around you will turn into that.
Yeah,
So if you bring it up, and I mean, again, human experience, give yourself grace, but it's just
or
something to do every day, just to be really like, okay, higher self, what is it?
yeah,
Okay, what would my higher self do?
yeah,
And it's what's going to make your body less inflamed. It's what's going to make everything so much easier.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
the ease is a birthright thing, I believe. So, do you have any advice for anyone that is like just starting out, or just any advice, like something that, I mean, you've given a lot of advice in here, but like something in particular that you would like to
Well, I
give?
would just like to reiterate your last point and to not outsource our power, to
Yeah.
listen to the voice of our own soul. When we come across any bit of information, using our intuition to discern. is this for me? Is this not for me? And using that as an opportunity to surrender and not need to be so analytical and logic based about everything. Because when we surrender and we trust that our higher self is always guiding us, that call from our higher self, it becomes more clear, and it
Yeah,
becomes a lot easier for us to embody who we truly are, to communicate with our soul, you know? And that's kind of what I think the waking up journey is about, reconnecting with your soul so that you can bring your soul here. You could bring heaven to earth. That's what
yeah.
I think this is about.
Me too. I
Yeah. So
100% agree.
people talk all the time about, oh, I'm trying to get off this prison planet or whatever. No, I love it here. I love this experience, being human, that I get to experience all these different emotions and wide array of, experiences. And that's what it's about for me is bringing heaven to earth and
Well, that's
just
the human
becoming a
experience.
beacon of love for others to do the same. Because
Yeah,
that's
because
how
I
we do it.
firmly believe we
We
chose
spread
this.
love and other people just they can't help it. They just wanna
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah, so I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
because we definitely, even if you don't believe it, we chose it, and might as well, make the best of it to enjoy it
Yeah,
and live it.
yeah,
Live,
exactly.
live it, and make it less hard
Yeah,
for ourselves
yeah,
by stop fighting
yeah,
ourselves.
because that's something it's kind of, propagated in our society a little bit is the victim mentality,
Yeah.
which, it's nothing but destructive, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's my message is to step into your power. Step into your power, baby. It's all there. Listen to your soul and trust the guidance that you receive.
Yeah, I love that. All right, everyone. Well, I hope this conversation was illuminating like the sun because we're both pretty bright. We're pretty bright people here. But yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in. And I will put our information in the show notes so you can find him and you can find me and connect with us or whatever. And I'm just wishing everyone a beautiful now
Mm.
and sending love, light, and authenticity. Thank
Thank you for
you.
the opportunity to come on your
Oh,
podcast, and thank you to
oh,
everybody who joined in to listen and co-created this with us today. Thank you.
yes.